Monday, June 26th, 2023. You are listening to the podcast Weather with Enthusiasm. We're holding right now just a few hours before a possible tornado risk. A tornado risk moves into the East Coast. We have several cities which are under an enhanced risk for severe storms. It's a 30% chance for storms within a 25-mile radius. Not for storms, 30% chance of severe weather. It basically means there's going to be severe weather. When there's enhanced risk, there will be severe weather in that area, maybe not necessarily within your localized 25-mile area. This is going to be affecting a population of 24,528,454 people. That's just for the enhanced risk. The cities which are most at risk currently: Baltimore, Maryland; Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Pennsylvania; Virginia Beach, Virginia; and Raleigh, North Carolina. This comes from the Storm Prediction Center. We have an unseasonably strong storm system located over the Great Lakes. This storm system has a front which is trailing from it, and we also have an unseasonably strong trough in the upper atmosphere on the East Coast. This is strong for late June, and these places are going to be also receiving hot and humid weather for today. It has not been common for there to be hot and humid weather for the East Coast so far this year, but dew points this morning are in the 70s for many locations. Afternoon highs for many locations in the strongest hit areas: Philadelphia, Baltimore, Virginia Beach, Raleigh, North Carolina, will come very close to 90, possibly even in the low 90s. We have some computer models showing Washington, D.C. at 93 degrees. I even saw a model which put temperatures in the mid-90s for this afternoon. So there could be some localized places of a temperature in the mid-90s. This is going to provide ample fuel for severe thunderstorm development. Now, what's really interesting, and this is uncommon to be happening on the East Coast, this part is uncommon. What we have is that the strongest convection potential is going to be south. The further south you go, the more cape there is. However, the further north you go, the more shear there is. What that means is that the further north you go, the higher the tornado risk is going to be. But the further south you go, the stronger the severe thunderstorm risk is going to be. The main risk seems to be large hail, damaging winds. There is a tornado risk anywhere from this Philadelphia down to Raleigh, North Carolina. If you look at AccuWeather, they're even putting New York. I even saw New York at a tornado risk, but generally they're saying, the National Weather Service is saying, if there are any tornadoes in that area, it's likely going to stay well to the west of the New York City metro. Temperatures are not really that warm over there, but we know that those of us that live here in the Midwest or the plains know that doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be tornadoes. We've seen plenty on the cold side of things as well. But when you go over to Baltimore, Philadelphia, those places, you could always look at the National Weather Service to get more details. But one thing is that we have something similar that was forecasted to happen yesterday. The initial stage of this is the supercells. Now, I haven't seen anyone that says straight out that it's going to develop into a squall line. But if you look at the North American Mesoscale model, you'll see thunderstorms start to move in to the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore area about 6 o'clock. Put it like this: 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, things are dry. 6 o'clock p.m., there's thunderstorm development in both areas, and it continues for a couple hours. Now, we know that these models are not always so accurate when it comes to thunderstorms, and in fact, many people like to look at the high-resolution rapid refresh model. That one doesn't show storms moving in until about 8 o'clock p.m., and both of these models show the main activity for New York being really this morning, late this morning. I'm going to look at it right now, actually, while I while I'm here. So North American Mesoscale model. So you have the Washington, D.C. area, again, getting hit around 6 p.m. This is what's advertised on windy.com. So, wow. In regards to Cape, we have Cape going past 2,000 for both Baltimore and Washington, D.C. For the whole afternoon, really. And then that ends at 5 o'clock. So, basically, that's very interesting. It looks like, should storms develop a little bit before 5, that's when we're going to see, it's hard to know. If storms develop this afternoon, it looks like there's higher levels of Cape. There's storms might even be stronger if they do develop in the mid-afternoon, according to the Cape Index that's being shown according to a couple models. But these storms, the North American Mesoscale model shows the storms moving through around somewhere between 5 and 6, lasting until a little bit after 8 for both Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it's... This is, I'm sure, well known by now. We have brutal heat that continues across the south central states over Texas, and that has spread. We also have very hot temperatures in other parts of the world, in parts of Asia, which we're not going to get into right now, but there is a major heat wave going on over there. We have the heat is going to spread also today. We have excessive heat warnings. This is actually probably not well known. We have excessive heat warnings right now in effect for parts of the desert southwest. Temperatures are finally going to get really hot. Now, Death Valley, California is expected this week to hit 113 degrees, but there's other locations also where temperatures are headed for afternoon highs between 105 and 113 in the desert southwest, and that's not Death Valley, meaning not Furnace Creek. Furnace Creek, that's not a chiddush. That's nothing new for that area to get to 113. What is surprising is that Texas has been doing that well before Death Valley did. But here is there's a hidden Death Valley that's been going on for years that's called Rio Grande Village, Texas. That's not surprising at all that Rio Grande Village, Texas reached 113 before Death Valley did. In fact, on many, many days, Rio Grande Village, Texas is the hottest city in the country. I really do not think this is well known at all. In fact, newspapers with weather sections that report the hottest temperature in the country don't even mention Grand Village, Texas, Rio Grande Village, Texas. A couple of them do, but many of them don't. And it's boiling hot over there. The high temperature yesterday, 117 degrees for Rio Grande Village, Texas. The high temperature on Friday was 119 degrees. We mentioned that the hottest temperature ever recorded in Texas was 120 degrees, which occurred in 1994. Now, it could be that we beat that. All I did is I checked what the high was in Rio Grande Village, Texas, because I just assumed that if we are going to beat it, we're going to beat it in Rio Grande Village, Texas, and we didn't. It was 117. But again, Friday we came very, very close. I also wonder whether we had weather stations in Rio Grande Village, Texas, in the Big Bend National Park. Here's one other thing that I think is important to point out, is that sometimes you might find weather forecasts for Rio Grande Village, Texas, and current conditions which do not reflect what was just said. That's because it's the wrong Rio Grande Village. It's the wrong part of Rio Grande Village. So if you don't see temperatures in the 110s, if you're checking a weather forecast for Rio Grande Village and it's not in the 110s, you're looking at the wrong Rio Grande Village. This place is located in Big Bend National Park. It's right next to a city called Pequelas del Carmen, Mexico, which has phenomenal 40 degree temperature differences, actually 40 to 50 degree temperature differences between night and day. And the temperatures are so similar in that city to Rio Grande Village. it's really like they're right next to each other. And if the weather forecast you're looking at is not similar to Bacuala del Carmen, Mexico, then you have the wrong Rio Grande Village. We also have a place called Rio Grande City, and temperatures are cooler over there. Here's another thing, and this is going to be my own chiddush. This is my own thought over here. So we mentioned before that heat index is not only a more accurate way to determine what the temperature feels like, what the weather conditions feel like, but it's also a more accurate way to determine how much energy is in the atmosphere. Both dew point and heat and temperature is a form of energy. But more than that, it's also a way you could determine that if it wasn't humid, how hot would the temperature be? So you look at the heat index. However, over the past week, I'm starting to realize that that's only true up to, dew points of about 75 or so. Once dew points go past 75, the heat index really takes over. And what you have to do to figure out what the temperature would have been, so this is a formula that I think is accurate. So a week ago or so, we had the heat index hit 128 degrees in Kingsville, Texas. So the question is, if it wasn't humid, the dew point was 78. If it wasn't humid, what would the temperature have been? So at that time, the temperature was 107. So if we were to, and the dew point was 78. So the question is, how much of that 128 degrees heat index was due to a dew point of 75, and how much was due to the dew point of 78? Well, basically, the way I figure is every degree you go past a dew point of 75, it makes the temperature feel 2 degrees warmer. So about 6 degrees would have been attributed to dew points higher than 75. So you want to figure out what the temperature would have been. It would have been 122 degrees had there been no humidity. Yesterday I figured out a different formula where I came up to 120. That sounds about right, especially figuring that we had forecast highs for Rio Grande Village at 120 yesterday. But the point of all this is actually to say that although when you have moderate or you have like humid air of dew points in the low to mid 70s, the heat index tends to be similar no matter where you are. Either the temperature is 110 or the temperature is 100 with a dew point in the lower or mid 70s. But with the super high dew points that we're seeing right now, the places with the humidity are actually going to end up feeling hotter. And for example, the New Orleans, Louisiana is telling us that the places along the coast, that's where it's going to feel hottest. That's where you have the highest heat indices today. Places along the coast, we have areas going up to around 115 degrees for a heat index this afternoon. And what I just said, except for the last part, which is official, up until you get to the last part, it's just a hypothesis. I wish everyone a safe day and enjoy your day, enjoy your week, and stay safe. You've been listening to the podcast Weather with Enthusiasm.